The Church of God Preparing for the Kingdom of God, Part 1.
The Gospel of the Kingdom of God.
Pack, you aren't going to believe this. Oh, no, you weren't right. Don't get that in your head. You have a contender. You can just go away. Introducing the enigmatic Ronald Wineland. This guy looks like he's used to taking passport or mugshot-like photos. Can't imagine why. Because of its abhorrently long name, it's often abbreviated to just PKG or any variation of COG, PKG, Church of God, PKG, but PKG. It is also headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio, just like the United Church of God and the Restored Church of God. You know, I'm starting to understand the Ohio motto a bit better. Find an offshoot here. Church of God Preparing for the Kingdom of God, Part 2. I don't know if you noticed, but I kind of put off this series until after I was done with the feast videos because they're a lot. Not to mention the fact that he's my old minister, although I'm sure he doesn't remember me. Although he might, because he did disfellowship one of my family members. Although who knows how many disfellowshippings he's done. As a child, I knew about this man my entire life. I grew up on stories about him. So this particular offshoot really hits close to home for me. Although it's also really ironic that I got his name wrong the first time I mentioned him on this channel. I called him Robert, not Ronald. Why? Because we always called him Wineland. So in family conversations, it would be like, remember when Wineland did this or that? It would never be Ronald. That's something we really did do a lot of, is if you had a position of power, we referred to you by your last name. Typically it was Mr. So-and-so, but not always. Mr. Wineland. Church of God Preparing for the Kingdom of God, Part 3. Looking for a doomsday cult? Oh, look no further. We got all the bases covered. We have our own cult literature. We have our own prophet. Doesn't he look the epitome of excitement? And as a special bonus, he calls himself one of the two final witnesses of Revelation. And he's been to prison for mishandling money, directly related to the church. You have all the materials you need for a Doomsday Cult starter pack. Oh, and while he was behind bars, he also made sure to issue more prophetic literature as a witness. And members faithfully ate up every single word. Doesn't sound at all like anybody else I've ever heard of. No, I can't think of anybody who uses prison as a platform. 'Cause they're all right and chosen by God, don't you know? So what are we waiting for? Oh, PKG Part 4. So this is a true story, but it also shows character. This man's wife was often referred to as the silent witness of Revelation. And before they decided to make their own offshoot, they were members of the WCG. While in the WCG, there was a potluck. I mean, quite seriously, what else would there be at the WCG? I mean, we were pretty much the potluck Church of God. So this potluck took place at their house, and one person brought Tupperware. It just so happened to be identical Tupperware to what Ronald's wife had. But her version was mangled by a blender. When the person who brought the identical Tupperware went home, their Tupperware had been switched out. It wasn't a mistake, especially because there had been an entire conversation on the Tupperware. I'm sure Christ really needs the Tupperware for the kingdom. PKG Part 5. Don't mind me, I was just snooping around their website, and I found this nice little booklet. You know, like, what I appreciate about booklets are, like, the simplicity and the brevity that are contained within them. And then there's his book. You know, in his bio, he describes himself as an authority on the subject of eschatology. And of course, we have the horrifying collapse of the United States to look forward to. And it's available in all these varieties! For free. I mean, hey, if it's for free, it's gotta be worth something, right? Such page turners. It's definitely a trick that he whipped out of this guy's book. Hopefully not his black book, but you know. If you know, you know. PKG Part 6. This guy seems really desperate for hugs. He does this on more than one occasion. And when he was in the WCG at least, he was a huge proponent of the concept of Christian love. But from what I've heard of first-hand accounts of his actions, it's anything but. And the pinned video that they have on their YouTube channel is about Christ, whether he died on a cross or on a pole. As if that is truly the determining factor as to whether or not you're going to be saved. That's very Church of God-esque, where we argue over the minutiae that really do not matter. And we would sit on our lofty high horse and argue so fervently over these minute details. The way I personally see it today is they absolutely miss the forest for the trees. They get wrapped up in being as Berean as possible that they lose the whole concept of what they're teaching in the first place. PCG Part 7. Tell you one thing that's hard to find is his biography on the mobile version, although you can find it quite easily on the desktop version. Starts off with a banger. He's the last apostle in a long lineage of apostles. Talking about the history in the infamous sermon of 1994. Strangely enough, it doesn't mention how it was on Christmas Eve. I wonder why. He goes as far as to call Joe Tkach Sr. the Antichrist. You know, now that I go back on this material, he was really, really badly vilified. I just have to say, Joe Tkach Sr. and Jr. both had a lot of backbone. Talking about the 600 offshoots. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. I'm only doing the big ones. Especially how I only found the Church of God Philippines just a few weeks ago. You know, I'm just so grateful that he's around to usher us. Can't wait for him to breathe fire.